Good morning, everybody. It's Marty, the JavaScript party. My buddy Rhett. Give her. Not there. There she goes. So here we go. All right. So we're trying to, let's see, go to data entities. I have goes 4200 data entities. So this is where I spend a lot of time. I'm trying to break this table out into its own set of components. So right now this is one big component that's part of all of this stuff. But I want to break it out into smaller pieces. And the biggest reason is not for reusability, which is probably the main purpose for all the things I'm doing, but like that's not why I'm doing it, but that's probably why it was invented, is so that you can create these components that end up getting reused. But really, for me, it's more to sort of limit the growth of different sections of the code. So I don't want to have an app data layout component that ends up having 10,000, 20,000 lines of code and just does like thousands and thousands of things. I would rather have it have like um, instead of tens of thousands of lines or thousands of lines of code, um, a bunch like a handful of things that all have like 100 lines of code. It would just be like easier to make sense of all the different pieces. But one thing is that I had done was I had fully like deeply coupled the filtering um, um, to within that, within the app and entity data layout. But now I've decided to separate this guy out from this guy down here so that we have so that but the problem is that deep coupling. Now I have to find some sort of way to communicate the filter. So we did get that done. See, so if I type in there, the future home of the data ta table is available. Now the question is like, okay, so how am I going to get this data? And I guess the answer is not that hard. I was thinking it was really hard, but now that I think about it, this thing, um, like this is a different component. When I hit add viz, this gets filled out. So whatever this is doing, I should be able to move it out. I don't know. That's my theory anyways. So we'll find out. Let's take that theory and put it to the test. All right. So for me, the first thing to do is figure out, okay, so data source is our, is what we called our data, our collection of data, and Matt Table also likes to call it a data source. So let's figure out how the data source comes in. I feel like it makes more sense to kind of get the data first and then build out the markup for it. I think that's the right direction to go in. Let's see, what is it? It is 8:48, so I only have a few more minutes, and I really do need to make sure I get into work on time. Today should be a very, very interesting day. Um, Today is the day that like laws become law in Georgia at the state level if the governor has not signed it. So like once the legislation comes up with a bunch of laws and then they pass it, then the governor has three choices. One is they can veto it, and then that law does not become a law. Or two, um, he can accept it, he can sign it, and he can sign it into law. Or three, he can let not sign it, but it just let it become. So it's kind of like, okay, it's a law, but I'm not signing it. So those are kind of the three um, the governor has, and there are some laws that affect me uh, from a work perspective, not from a legal perspective, um, that are that may or may not have come in last night, and so I'm going to find out in a few minutes. Anyways, okay, so what is going on here? We have this effect, and we get our visualizations. Okay, so this was an idea that I had that would so that I could tell if something changed because I didn't want this thing updating all the time. So if the visualization hash changes, I believe that's what we do. So let's go find our visualization hash. I wonder, is there a subscribe? No. Receive? You know, that little telephone might be like a really good. Yeah, I think that's really good. Yeah. So, like, I think I want to do this little telephone right before any subscriptions or um oh, we can know there was a change in the data. All right, so I think we're going to do this. I'm going to copy this over into our component. I don't know if this is the right thing to do, but oh, and before I can even do anything, I need to create a constructor. And then inside of our constructor, we'll add this comment. And actually, before we do that, we're going to call effect. Effect is a function that is provided in the core. So let's come over here and I, E, F, G, H, 8, A, B, C, D. So, oh, I have this backwards, right? I want to do lowercase first, inject, comma, and then E, F, G, H, I. Okay, so that's not even the right inject. That with capital I is I believe, a interface. With a lowercase I is a okay, what's the problem here? Import effect from Angular core. Oh, it's upset because I need to give it a function. Right? So this guy gets the hash and then it knows what the hash is. So we need to get that publisher service. So we could inject the publisher service. Now we cannot inject this. Anything that injects publisher service cannot inject the publisher service cannot inject anything that injects it, or you'll get a circular error. NG, I can't even remember what it was. ST equals inject. So as you see, it just automatically, magically, for whatever reason, decided that that it knew how to inject that. It knew how to import it, right? So like normally we have to go in and we have to go and tell it what we're getting, but for some reason it knows exactly, which is weird. It knows that sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. That's the weird part, is the inconsistently. That has probably been the hardest, one of the most difficult adaptations for me to make. Is like computers used to be like solidly reliable, and if they were not reliable, they were solidly unreliable. Now, sometimes they work, sometimes they didn't. That was a concept that just was not a concept when I was younger. It's like it did what it did. That's what it did every time. It was super reliable. Now computers are just absolutely unreliable. All right. So anyways, now we did this. We're importing that. And now let's see what we got. Okay, so we have this hash. Oh, interesting. Okay, so I did the hash so that I would not have to, because the hash changes and then that causes everything to build up and it actually uses the latest. And it could very well be that that yeah, I don't know what I was about to say. But anyways, so in this effect, I'm going to do this. And what this causes to happen is this code will just run every time. So I can say effect count. And so here's where I'm going to take a little bit of time effect count is equal to 0. And then we're going to say, and I don't know, we might even get a little error. This dot effect count plus plus. I don't know if we're going to end up with a error. We do quite often end up with errors in that situation. Filter value, filter value. And I will say that on last Saturday, I thought I was going to come in and I was going to do a little 10-minute video where I grabbed all of the table and put it into its own component. And now here I am on multiple days later, and I don't know why. Div. I don't know, it's upset about that. And then what happens if I do this? Shouldn't be able to see anything probably because I don't know why I didn't like that paragraph because it was being opened and closed, but for some reason I have seen that before, and that just wasn't worth digging into. Color for me. White. Okay, and then if I type this, okay, now I'm going to make this effect count. And then this is, I think it's called effect count. Yeah. Okay, so now if I add this, let's see what happens. Yeah, see, as I add them, this effect count, that effect fires every time I add one of these things. So then it recalculates. So then there's no reason for me, I don't think, to make a special effort to try to do to try to keep to change the the reference. Anyways, I got to start work in 3 minutes. Wish me luck today, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Happy coding. Bye.